The Melba Story. The story of Australia's most famous woman. The true story, fully authenticated, and featuring another wonderful Australian singer, Glenda Raymond. The Melba Story. So far in the Melba Story, we've heard of the young Australian singer's marriage to Charles Armstrong, of the birth of her son George, and of her decision to continue her career as a singer. After a concert in Sydney, her father, David Mitchell, came to her hotel bedroom and told her not to read the newspaper reports.
You'd only upset yourself, Nellie. The best thing is to forget all your singing and come back to Melbourne.
Just a moment, Father. I want to know exactly what the critics said.
I've told you.
You told me that one of them said my voice was metallic.
That's true. I have it here in print. I tell you, lassie, after this you'll be well advised to give up these ideas of becoming a professional singer.
No.
But you promised.
I promised to accept the verdict of the critics. From what you've told me, they didn't say anything very definite.
Well, if calling your voice hard isn't definite, I don't know what is.
They didn't say it was hard, did they?
Metallic. It's the same thing.
Oh, I don't know, Father. They could have meant that my voice was silvery, or even golden.
Well, I didn't think you were the kind of lass who was ready to deceive herself.
No, Father, I'm not that kind. And I know very well that those critics didn't intend to flatter me. But they haven't exactly said I'm wasting my time, have they?
You know as well as I do, Nellie, that to be a well singer, you have to be practically faultless.
All right. I'll keep working until I am faultless.
Upon my word, lass, you're a true Mitchell. You won't admit defeat.
Oh, yes, I will. But only when I'm defeated.
And in the meantime?
Back to Melbourne, and more lessons with Signor Cecchi.
Better, much better.
You do think I'm improving, Signor Cecchi?
Oh, you have made wonderful progress, Mrs. Armstrong. Already you are a very fine singer, but I will make you the greatest artist in the world.
You really believe I could be that?
Do what I tell you and you cannot fail.
But there are no opportunities in this country.
No, when you are ready, you must go abroad. I have friends in Italy. I can arrange everything.
You're very good to me. All these lessons, I've lost count of them.
No more talk. Let us to work. But I think you should tell your father and your husband that you wish to go abroad.
Father, now that Charles is here, there's something I want to say to both of you.
What have you been up to, Nellie?
You look like a cat that's just about to swallow a canary.
No, Charles, I don't feel a bit like that. More like the canary, in fact, with a cat on each side of it.
Well, anyway, what is it you have to say?
It's just this, Father. Why don't we take a trip home?
Home?
You mean to England?
England in my case, Ireland in yours, Charles, and Scotland for Father.
Oh, she's mad.
Wouldn't you like to see the old country again, Father?
I would.
And Charles, wouldn't you like to see your people again?
Well, yes, I suppose I would.
All right, then. Why don't we go?
Just a moment, Nellie. You haven't told us why you're so anxious to reach the other side of the world.
I thought you'd know that without my mentioning it, Father. I want to prove to you, to Charles, to everyone, in fact, including myself, that I can sing as well as... well, say Jenny Lind.
Jenny Lind?
Oh, the conceit of the girl.
Suppose a recognized authority, someone who doesn't know me, who's never even heard of me, says I'm another Jenny Lind. Wouldn't that satisfy you both?
Well, if it was someone really important, like Well, Sir Arthur Sullivan, for instance.
Or that fella Parry.
Oh, yes, he's director of the London College of Music. I'll see him. And Sir Arthur Sullivan, too. Oh, thank you, Father. I never dreamed you'd agree so easily.
I haven't agreed to anything.
But you said you wanted to have Professor Parry's opinion, didn't he, Charles?
He did mention the name of Parry.
There's just one trifling detail that might have escaped your notice, Nellie. Who's going to pay for this trip?
Why, you are. Aren't you?
What's that?
But of course I'll help. There'll be a benefit concert. I'll get Signor Cecchi to arrange that.
And when are you sailing, Mrs. Armstrong?
On the 11th of June.
Then suppose we arrange a concert for June the 6th. No, on the Saturday before you leave.
Mm-hmm.
Would that suit you?
Oh, yes, that would be wonderful. Will you make all the arrangements, Signor Cecchi?
I will do more than that, my dear. I will sing at your concert myself.
You?
I was once a famous tenor, and I can still sing as well as any man in this country. But I will not sing a solo. I will be content to supply the offstage tenor part in the aria A Faux Louis.
Oh, thank you, Signor Cecchi. Thank you.
Bravo, my dear. You were magnificent.
You were wonderful too, Signor Cecchi.
Oh, I am the past. You are the future. Come, another bow to your audience. Again. And again.
Oh, this is the happiest night of my life.
You will have many such nights in the years to come, my dear. You will come to expect applause like that as your natural right.
If that time ever comes, Signor Cecchi, it will be all your doing.
Well, so good of you to say so.
But it's the truth. You've taught me all I know. And for nothing.
For nothing, you say?
Well, I haven't paid you anything, have I?
No, Mrs. Armstrong, but you will.
You mean after I've made my name?
I mean now. Look, I have the bill all ready for you.
The bill?
Oh, please take it. It is yours.
But this says I owe you 80 guineas.
Yes, 80 guineas. And the money must be paid before you leave. Good morning, Mrs. Armstrong.
Is it true, Signor Cecchi, that you've threatened to have my trunk seized if I don't pay you this money?
Quite true.
Do you think that's an honourable thing to do?
Oh, do you call it honourable to refuse to pay your debts?
You said you'd teach me for nothing.
Oh, how foolish that would be when you have a rich father.
My father's paying my passage home. I wouldn't ask him for anything else.
Then you'd better find the money yourself.
I have the money here. Here you are.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Signor Cecchi. This is the last time we'll ever meet. In 24 hours, I'll be on my way to England.
Wave to your friends, Nellie. It's the last you'll see of them for a long time.
And the last you'll see of Australia.
I'll come back someday, after I've kept my appointment.
What appointment?
You mean with Sir Arthur Sullivan?
No, with destiny.
In just a moment, we'll resume the Melba Story. The Melba Story.
How long now, Father, before we reach England?
About a week, I think. But there are lots of things to see before that.
I'm not interested in anything else. I just want to get to London.
I'd like to visit Ireland. I want you to meet my people, Nellie.
Plenty of time for that, isn't there, Charles?
Oh, yes, I suppose so, but my mother's rather anxious to see young George.
Why can't you go there right away, lass?
Because I've some important business to do in London.
You mean interviewing these musical celebrities?
I've letters of introduction to Professor Parry, to Sir Arthur Sullivan, to Mr. Brinsmead, the piano manufacturer, and to Mr. Alberto Randegger, the famous singing teacher.
Are you going to sing for all of them?
Yes, if they let me.
That's going to keep you rather busy, isn't it?
I suppose so. For the first few weeks, anyway. You don't think I'm selfish, do you, Charles?
No, of course not, when it means so much to you, but you'd better reconcile yourself to disappointment, you know.
That's good advice.
You're still both convinced that I'm not good enough.
Oh, you have a very nice voice, Nellie. I wouldn't deny that.
But only for the drawing room.
Well, perhaps so. But I hope to prove you both wrong.
If you do, I'll be glad to apologize.
But if you don't, well, I hope you'll come back home and forget all this nonsense.
I will, Father. I promise. But you wait. I'm sure I'll get some good reports in England. England at last.
The way you talk, Nellie, you'd think it was Scotland.
Or Ireland.
Oh, you don't know what it means to me to be here, in the centre of things.
You mean musically?
Yes, of course.
Who's the first man you have to see?
Professor Parry at the Royal Academy of Music. If he likes my voice, I'm made.
And if he doesn't?
Well, I'll try someone else.
And if he doesn't?
Someone else again, Charles.
You have the tenacity of the true Scot, Nellie. But be careful you don't make a fool of yourself.
Why should I do that, Father?
These fine London gentlemen are not going to be bothered with an unknown lass from Australia.
I'll make them take notice of me. I'll make them.
Another failure, Nellie.
Yes, Father. I suppose you'd call it that. Mr. Brinsmead was far more interested in his piano than in my voice.
And Sir Arthur Sullivan thought you might possibly be good enough for a small part in the Mikado.
That's right.
And Professor Parry was too busy to hear you sing at all.
Well, at least he wasn't able to say anything against me.
I'm not going to let you waste any more of your time, Nellie.
Why, Father, what do you mean?
I booked your passage back to Australia.
Oh, no!
It's all arranged, lass. Charles comes back with a boy from Ireland next Tuesday, and we sail the following day.
But I've an appointment with Alberto Randiger on the Tuesday.
All right, keep your appointment. I don't mind.
But suppose he asks me to stay in England.
He won't.
Well, suppose he does, though, Father. Would you let me stay?
Suppose he doesn't. Would you give up this crazy idea of yours?
Yes.
All right, it's a bargain. And everything depends on what this Randiger says.
Charming, my dear Mrs. Armstrong. Very, very charming.
I want you to tell me the truth, Mr. Randiger. Is my voice above the ordinary?
It has a quality all its own, a purity that is truly exquisite. I doubt if I have ever heard that aria from La Traviata sung better.
Would you like to hear me sing something simpler, like Coming Through the Rye, for instance?
I'd love to hear you sing it, Mrs. Armstrong. Is this the music?
Yes. Would you play it for me?
Delighted.
In a body, meet a body, coming through the rye. In a body, kiss a body, need a body cry. Ilke lassie has her laddie, name me say, yet all let this smile at me, when coming through the rye. In a body, meet a body, coming frae the tune. In a body, meet a body, need a body prune. Ilke lassie has her laddie, name me say, yet overlets they smile at me, when coming through the rye.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. I congratulate you, Mrs. Armstrong. You not only have a fine voice, but you sing like an artist.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Randegger. It's been so difficult to get an honest opinion. In Australia, certain people said I had an exceptionally good voice, but I wondered about their standards of comparison. That's why I was so anxious to come to London and submit myself to the judgment of people who really know what they're talking about.
Very wise, very, very wise. You are, if I may say so, a most unusual woman.
Why?
Because you combine the poetry and vision of the musician with the uncompromising honesty of the youth of today.
I've always tried to be honest with myself. But it's a great relief to have you confirm what I've always known to be true. You've made me very happy today, Mr. Randegger.
Oh, no. It is you who have made me happy. A charming visitor from the other side of the world. I'm not often so honored.
Oh.
And when you go back to Australia, my dear Mrs. Armstrong, I hope you will sometimes give a thought to your friend Randegger.
When I go back?
Did you not say you were here on a visit?
Well, yes, but
then I trust that this little interview has helped to make your visit more enjoyable.
Yes, of course, but
I'm always ready to help young artists. I find it a very great pleasure. And now, Mrs. Armstrong, if you will excuse me, I have to give a lesson in a few minutes' time.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about, Mr. Randegger.
What?
I want to take lessons from you.
From me?
Well, you said my voice had quality.
I meant it, my dear. When you go back to Australia, you should do very well.
But I don't want to go back to Australia.
No.
Not yet, anyhow. I want to make my name first. I want to prove myself. So, if I could become one of your pupils...
I regret, dear lady, that I have no time to teach you.
No time?
My list is full, indeed more than full. I cannot possibly take another pupil at present.
But if my voice is as good as you say...
The world is full of lovely voices. It is an astonishing phenomenon of the age, Mrs. Armstrong, that there should be so many charming young women, all singing like angels and all determined to set the world on fire.
You refuse to accept me as a pupil?
Do not put it like that, my dear. Let us say that circumstances make it impossible. Perhaps in a few months' time.
In a few months' time, I shall probably be on my way back to Australia.
It's all settled then, Nellie. You're coming home with us tomorrow.
I suppose so.
Personally, I'll be glad to get back to Australia. The old country isn't what it used to be.
I like Australia too, Charles, and I'd never hear a word against it. But I hadn't expected to be going home quite so soon.
You won't regret it, Nellie. Every day you stay here brings you more disappointments and heartbreaks.
I've heard other singers, not only at home, but since we've been here, and I'm convinced that I can do better.
You have to convince others, lass, and you haven't done it. So, keep to your bargain now and start packing.
All right, Father. I suppose the first thing to do is to destroy my other letters of recommendation. Well, here goes.
Don't take it so hard, Nellie. You had your chance.
No, I didn't, Father. Not a real chance. What? Why, what's this?
Just another letter of introduction, isn't it?
Yes, Charles. But one I'd completely forgotten. It's to Madame Marchese, the most famous teacher in Paris.
Paris? Tear it up, my girl. Tear it up with the others.
No, Father. I'm going to keep this one.
Why? What good will it do you when you're going home?
I've changed my mind, Father. I'm not going home. I'm going to Paris instead.
Melba makes the most fateful decision of her life. We'll follow her to Paris in the next chapter of The Melba Story. The Melba Story was written by John Ormiston Reed and produced by Dorothy Crawford. The Australian Symphony Orchestra was conducted by Hector Crawford. The role of Melba was spoken by Patricia Kennedy and sung by the Australian coloratura soprano Glenda Raymond.